Hello my friends, and welcome back to my channel. Specifically, welcome back to my iceberg series, which, at the time recorded, is admittedly my only series, but there will be more later. In the last video, I combined tiers 3 and 4 on accident, because sometimes I don't pay attention to what I'm writing on my script. So today we're going to combine the last two parts, 5 and 6. Theoretically, because these are the two lowest parts of the iceberg, they should be the most mysterious, the most cryptic, and the most interesting. I'll let you decide. I don't think there are many that are mysterious nor cryptic, but it's still cool to talk about. There is a lot of cool stuff in here, so let's get right to it, but first, we're going to talk about two quick reminders. Our first reminder is that this video series is designed to just give you an overview of these topics, so I will be glossing over each entry and the details will be scant. I do this to encourage you to check out the original posters' channels or website so they get more support. We will be doing a full investigation eventually, but for now, don't expect me to laboriously spoon-feed you every minute detail of these entries. I always encourage you to do your own research because I could get something wrong or new evidence could come out since I've posted the videos. Our second reminder that this is an iceberg video, and if you somehow have not encountered one of these yet, let me explain to you how this works. Icebergs are known for having only a fraction of their actual size visible from the surface of the water. If we take this idea and apply it to information here, the information we see on the top of the iceberg will be the well-known topics, and the topics towards the bottom will be more obscure. Now that's enough of me talking about nonsense, let's talk about why you're really here. With our first entry, Sentimental Corp.
Sentimental Corp.
Sentimental Corp is a fun entry to start off with. Leaning heavily into subliminal messaging and mind control, this website is devoted to making those who view it hate on inclusivity. I do want to revisit this website for its own video one day, but in the meantime, here's what you need to know. This video uses vulgar imagery, strawman arguments, extremely unfunny attempts at comedy, and scary visuals to show us, the viewer, the creator's odd stance against diversity and disdain for the World Economic Forum. They also plug all of their weird core music on a page of the website for some clout. The owner of this website is named Johnny Prozac, who in and of himself is a bit of a character. So it makes me believe that this entire website is some heavy-handed satire making fun of those who believe in conspiracy theories like fluoride being bad for you. Spoiler alert, it's not. Feel free to check out the entire website, but be prepared for vulgar images, words, and unsettling noises, a la MKUltra. If this maybe satirical or maybe scarily sincere website isn't doing it for you, let's check out another in the same vein named FusionAnomaly.net.
FusionAnomaly.net.
There's something so captivating about old websites and the stories that they tell. For example, I would describe this website as proto-Wikipedia, which is made entirely by what seems like one person. They allow their biases and their beliefs to infect their entries, which is a little unprofessional. For example, once we click the tiny little button on the homepage, we will be at the first page. Each one of these large red buttons take us to a topic. Let's choose this one. We ended up choosing the topic for realms. And each one of these entries is a different realm. So let's scroll down and we'll choose Easter Island. As we can see here, this page was first made in 2002 and was most recently updated in 2024. Each one of these page breaks is a different entry. We can see that the information isn't all factual, and some information can be completely made up, while others is very heavily researched and valid. It also has connections to other entries on this massive wiki. Take some time and have fun exploring this odd website and seeing how things are connected, and enjoying the little bits of paranoia and pseudoscience the creator allows to seep into each post. While you do that, let me tell you about another wiki, but with a little bit more scandal.
Fandom Wiki Circumcision Meltdown.
The fandom in question in the Fandom Wiki Circumcision Meltdown is the Silent Hill fandom. This is in reference to a little rant that a moderator on the wiki goes on, and it's actually really funny and I recommend you read it yourself, so I'm going to be vague to encourage you to go check it out. Essentially, on a Silent Hill 4 page, this moderator left a number of posts about how Silent Hill has a lot of anti-foreskin imagery. This moderator goes on to post multiple things that he believes is a sign of the circumcision agenda that this game possesses. They then also go on to explain the harms of this practice and the conspiracy that the government is forcing us all to do this to our male children. Anyway, there is no good way to transition from talking about circumcision to a daycare, but yeah, that's what we're doing.
SLC Daycare Center.
This entry is regarding a daycare center in Salt Lake City that looks pretty bizarre. There's actually a chance that you've seen this picture without understanding what you're looking at. That's because the weird colors in the construction imbue this building with a strange aura that unnerve many people who see it. According to the rumors online, there are never any kids here, and it's just a front for money laundering. Personally, I don't think that makes much sense. Why would you not just open up a mattress store like everyone else? It seems like much less work. However, conversely, There are plenty of people online who say they send their children here, and it's a very lovely place. Additionally, I was able to find a lot of news coverage about this location and how they thrive and take care of their children very well despite these rumors. Let me know what camp you're in. Is this a creepy money laundering building, or just a child care center with some unfortunate location and construction? I personally believe the latter, but I would love your opinion. While you type out your comment, let's talk about our next entry that might also have some dark implications.
blackroomsuit.avi.
If I'm being honest, I think you should just go check out this video and come back and we'll talk about it. It's a short video and my description won't do it justice, so I'll wait here. Alright, I'm assuming that you've gotten to see this unsettling video, and if you haven't, I will give a little bit of background, but please do just go view it. So those two creepy guys in the background are known as Ray Ray, and they're actually mascots that were supposedly stolen from the creator's truck prior to this video being uploaded. Therefore, he knows nothing about what's going on in this video. Or, so the story goes. The story also postulates that these people are forcing the crying man to eat a soup that contains the remains of his deceased family. Some real-world research suggests that this video and its spin-offs are actually a form of viral marketing to drum a buzz around the Ray Ray figures. This comes from the claim that the men being forced to eat the soup and being kidnapped in later videos is intimately involved with the mascot. What do you think? Are the narratives of these YouTube videos true, or is this a marketing stunt? Let me know below. While you do that, let's talk about a dead video game.
Worlds.com cult.
Worlds.com is a video game that has been covered by a lot of YouTubers. I feel like I've come to a different conclusion on the topic than most of them have, but let me know what you guys think. Worlds.com is a virtually dead video game. The draw to this video game was that you can make your own world, with its content being entirely your own. Eventually, this website was overshadowed and lost its hype, and because of this, most of its players left, except for a few who refused to let the memories of their favorite game fade. One of the prominent members was named Nexalist, who became a central figure in what people began to refer to as a cult. His presence was enough to keep people coming back and playing this game, as he was reportedly a very nice person, and the connections were very genuine. When you combine people playing a game just for the community along with the creepy vibes that any abandoned video game gives off, I can see how rumors about this game became a cult conspiracy. What do you think though? Am I falling for this cult's cover story, or is Nexalist just some guy refusing to let a game die? While you decide, let me tell you about something that really churns my stomach.
The fifth nail.
As I've mentioned several times in the past, I try very hard to be respectful of true crime cases, especially of the living members and of the victim, as well as not give a platform to ARGs who tie in actual real-world problems, such as disappearances, murders, or missing people. That being said, I am not going to give a lot of coverage of this entry, but The Fifth Nail is the name of a collection of posts and stories from a serial killer during his time in death row. Everything listed is a true story and you could buy it in book form. Next, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite mysteries.
Alex from Tennessee.
Like I said earlier, I love this entry. Alex from Tennessee was a super scary prospect for me as a kid, but now, I don't think it's scary, and I know that it's all likely a fabrication for our enjoyment, but let me set the stage. This is a story told by two separate accounts on 4chan. The first is the OP, or original poster, who started this whole story, and second is Alex, who was the namesake of this entry. OP made a post one day with some cryptic language and a set of coordinates picturing decaying material. OP wanted us to believe that this decaying material was a body, even though it was clearly not, and it is our prize if we come to the location to find it. Rightfully, most people believed this was just a troll and responded to it with jokes. As time passed, OP became impatient, taunting the audience and posting more pictures. Eventually, someone named Alex would take the bait, and announced his plans to visit the coordinates in coming days. He would live tweet his progress. Notably, he found tons of medication bottles, the decaying material, a hard drive, and a note saying that he should not have come. His final update was him saying that he heard someone approaching, who we can assume was the OP, and then Alex was never heard from again. There's plenty of evidence that can prove that this is just a story told by one person on two different accounts, but I don't want to shatter the illusion of the story created, unless you want me to do a longer explanation video. In the meantime though, let's enjoy another story from 4chan.
4chan Baboon Story.
The 4chan Baboon Story is a story told to us by an anon on 4chan about a recurring dream that he has, that he claims feels real. This image would later become a meme format which you might recognize. In this story, he claims that his dream self wakes up, then goes downstairs to get a snack. When he looks up out the window over his sink, he sees a baboon glaring at him, and he releases a blood-curdling scream, wakes him up into a semi-paralyzed state, until he eventually slips back into sleep. It's a neat little story with some meme impact, but there isn't much more to talk about here. Our next entry needs a trigger warning, so feel free to skip to the timestamp I put on screen if self-harm bothers you.
Coldness in my heart.
This is your second and final warning about this entry containing self-harm. I will try to be as vague as possible about it, but it is central to the discussion, so I can't avoid it entirely. You've been warned. Coldness in My Heart was the name of a Tumblr account run by an anonymous German girl. The entire Tumblr was devoted to self-mutilation. She would make incisions on her body all the way down to the bone, and remove massive chunks of her flesh, all for the internet to see. Today this account has been scrubbed from the internet, and rightfully so. During my research, I actually found that most of the information was coming from a central person claiming to have seen this Tumblr account, so I recommend taking all of it with a grain of salt. Similarly, when I found actual news sources, if you can call BuzzFeed an actual news source, claiming to do an interview with this girl, the interview seems very odd, as in it is vaguely talking about the same areas, and the interview doesn't seem to actually be with a woman of German descent, so it just seems like they're trying to cash in on what could be people suffering, which is disgusting, which is why I hate BuzzFeed. Anyway, I really hope that this was all fabricated to get a gross scare out of all of us, and there was never actually someone hurting. I can't fully tell because of the way these sources are presenting themselves, but with that out of the way, let's go talk about an entry that's a little more lighthearted.
Haunted library webcam.
The Haunted Library webcam is exactly that. A webcam set up in a library that believes itself to be haunted. The Willard Library in Indiana believes their entire library to be host to a few different ghosts. In order to catch them, they set up static cams in various locations of the library and allow the feed to be live streamed on their website. While you finish this video, you can check out the website and do some ghost hunting from the comfort of your own home. Up next on the iceberg is a story about a startling discovery.
Mostly harmless.
Mostly Harmless was the trail name of someone named Vance Rodriguez, who sadly wasn't able to be identified for 2 years after his passing. Trail names are the names that hikers give to people they interact with during their hike. Because Vance loved the outdoors and was focused on staying off the grid, many people only knew him as his trail name, which became an issue when he was discovered deceased inside of his tent. Further adding the complications in identifying him were armchair detectives creating misinformation and red herrings on the internet, which is one of the reasons why I aim to be as respectful and transparent as I can when I cover cases such as these. That being said, eventually Vance was identified and his loved ones were given proper closure. And with that, this level of the iceberg comes to a close. But before we say our goodbyes, let's cover the last section of this list. Welcome to the depths, my friends. This in theory should have the creepiest and most obscure entries on this list, but I will leave that decision up to you, because I am apparently chronically online and I've known all of these entries prior to doing the research. With that out of the way, let's talk about our first entry. Robhigan Jürgena.
What do you mean with
Robhigan Jürgena, whose pronunciation I literally just made up on the spot, is a mirror text of the word angry neighbor, which I will be referring to it as from now on. Angry neighbor is an apt description of the account, because the individual who runs the account is a disgruntled neighbor who posts videos as proof of his neighbors being loud and obnoxious. I hesitate to call these videos as most of the videos are just black screens, with a time and a date as the description and talking about how angry the poster is. Additionally, the audio is very quiet, making many people confused on the complaint being made. This confusion also causes most people to believe the poster is suffering from a mental illness, somewhat similar to gang stalking. What do you think though? Can you see why he's upset? While you're thinking about it, let's talk about another YouTube channel devoted to documenting aggression.
Help with advice.
Help with Advice is the name of a YouTube channel ran by a couple who believe that they are the victims of gang stalking. The videos on this account are very hard to watch, as the couple live in a very bad condition and seem to be very sick in many of the videos. They don't go into much detail in the videos, but it appears that they believe they are being targeted by some sort of sonic device that is being controlled by a group of people who are out to ruin their lives. These symptoms are all signs of the phenomenon known as gang stalking. which I personally believe is a form of mental illness, and that the attacks being quote-unquote documented are conditions caused by the mental illness and the living conditions of those who are posting. We've covered a couple of entries on this list that could be classified as gang stalking, and I hope all of those who are afflicted are doing better today. Next, we're going to briefly touch on something purely because it's on this list.
Godly recon.
Godly recon is similar to another entry that we've covered in this video series that used real missing women for attention. For that reason, I will not be expounding any further, and I wish that these projects would refrain from using real people suffering as a way to gain attention and profit, because it does seem like it had a good premise. Next, we're going to be talking about a YouTube conspiracy.
Playground.
PL4YGNT, or Playground, is a set of YouTube videos that are supposedly shocking videos of a secret society that contains a staggering 4 members. The name of the channel that these videos are contained on is known as The Remnants of Playground, because that's all that is left. These 4 members, armed with camcorders, recorded various aspects of life. These members were only active from 1999 through 2003. There also was somehow a 5th member who found out about these 4 and infiltrated their little group. The 5th member was determined to reveal all of the evil shenanigans that the other 4 were up to. However, the videos that they uploaded to their YouTube channel weren't much of anything necessarily evil, just kind of odd and unsettling. There were, however, other accounts that interacted with the comments of these videos, and those accounts would post things that were related to sacrifice and torture. This is all likely an ARG that never really took off, but it's hard to research now as most of the project is deleted or missing, or was just never uploaded to begin with. Next, let's talk about an entry which could be considered shocking.
Discharges.com.
Discharges.org is a defunct shock site that was abandoned in 2010 and completely disappeared in 2016. In the early 2000s, when this was infamous, there was no shortage of websites that had a singular goal of disturbing the viewer. These could be linked in a chainmail or on some random sites to scare and scar the unfortunate person who clicked it. If you clicked on this website, your eyes would be assaulted by a random NSFW content ranging from tentacle stuff to scat to gore. There isn't much to say beyond this, as the websites like this were a dime a dozen at this point in time. If you look up the archive for discharges.org, a wiki will list everything that this website hosted and describe each video. So if you don't want to know what there are, don't go look, but if you're interested, there are some really weird videos on this wiki. Next, let's go talk about a radio hijacking.
WKCR hijacking.
The WKCR hijacking is a hijacking that was originally reported on 4chan. The WKCR radio station comes from Columbia University, and according to the original post, the music that the station was playing randomly cut, and instead loud squealing with female breathing could be heard over the airwaves instead. This was punctuated with obituaries and recordings from the Pan Am Flight 103 crash. After a while, the radio host apologized for the delay and continued to play normal music. Some people believe this was a real hijacking, but they can't explain why. Others believe it was a prank played by a bored college student, and some others believe that the entire event was fabricated by someone on 4chan. But which story do you believe in? While you're deciding, let's talk about a music website.
Eon5.com.
Eon5 is literally a music website. I don't know why this is on here besides people thinking it was cryptic at one point, but it really never was. Back in 2006, there was something going on called Eon 8. People thought Eon 8 was related to Eon 5, but it never really was, so we can completely ignore Eon 8 for now. Eon 5 at one point was a website which held a single image. You can still see this image on the Wayback Machine, but let's go back to what Eon 5 originally was. Eon 5 was originally a website of a beauty company called Eon 5. Then they sold the domain, and it was bought by the new Eon 5, which is a music producer. The creepy image that everyone thought was related to Eon 8 was actually cover art for an album that this company recorded. So it turns out the whole reason this entry is on the list is just a misunderstanding, which is why you should always do a little bit of research before you believe something on the internet. That being said, let's talk about the date, October 28th, 2011.
Org 282,011.
October 28th, 2011 is obviously a date, but according to Reddit, it was also a religious event that should have occurred. October 28th, 2011 was also a website, known as October28th2011.com. Once October 28th, 2011 came and went, the website slowly saw less and less use. Supposedly during the time that the site was up and running, there was a number that you could call. When you rung it, a pre-recorded message would play that consisted of movement, breathing, and finally a beep. When I turned to the Wayback Machine, I found the website contained a number of random images, math problems, and phone numbers, which I tried to call, but each number was out of service. Additionally, many of the pages that were recorded on the Wayback Machine had what appears to be the sound of grease popping while cooking playing in the background. Throughout the web pages, there were a number of posts about dreams becoming reality and reaching a state of enlightenment. The owner of the website actively invited those who were becoming awakened to post about it, though we can find no evidence of people posting about this. In all, it seems like an ARG project or an individual trying to get others to believe in their delusions. Feel free to hop onto the Wayback Machine and check it out while I talk about our next entry, which is an unnerving YouTube account.
Correct 163.
I believe this entry is actually referencing Curat963, which is a YouTube channel of the same name, and what I believe to be an art project about mental health. Although, with the state that this project is in currently, it's hard to tell whether it is an art project or an ARG about being brainwashed. Allow me to explain my thinking. After watching all the videos on the YouTube channel, it appears as though we are stepping behind the eyes of the main character and experiencing the world that they do. At first, they're trying to reconnect with nature, but then they slowly start to have an attack. They start to have voices speak to them to degrade them, telling them how worthless they are. That, or they are being kidnapped and being forced to be mind-controlled. What makes me think this is there's language such as tapes and files being pulled and information being uploaded to the brain. While this does seem somewhat like mind control a la MK Ultra, it could just be the artistic rendition of how anxiety attacks, panic attacks, self-deprecating thoughts go about corrupting your thoughts of yourself. I do think the art project angle has more substance to it, but it could be anyone else. Because this project hasn't been updating in some time, we might never know. With that, we're going to talk about our next entry called Happy Cube.
Happy Cube.
Happy Cube is the name of a little game that involves 3D puzzle pieces that come together to form a cube. That, or it's code for ending someone else's life. There exists a message board called Happy Cube Productions, where the members talk about something they call cubing, and their preferred methods of enacting it. Supposedly cubing is code word for the act of game ending someone. There was supposedly a whole investigation done on this website, but there's a pretty good chance it is all part of an elaborate ARG, for reasons that become pretty apparent as you explore the site. Mainly, the way the Wyoming incident is heavily tied to the mythos of this website. If you decide to explore it, make sure not to get bogged down in all of the posts, because other people can randomly post things too. There are different pages that seem to be central to the narrative, so I would start there. While you explore it, let's talk about one man's strange final mission.
John Lang.
John Lang was the name of a man who no longer wished to reside on this mortal coil, but he wanted to make his death meaningful. He believed that by finding a way to implicate his local police department in his death, that it would make his passing meaningful. So he began tweeting and explaining to those who would listen that he found dirt on the police, and that they would soon be coming for him. After doing this for some time, he proceeded to remove himself from this plane of existence in hopes that this would make the police look guilty. His carefully laid plan, however, did nothing of the sort, and the coroner and many people believe he was just a man suffering from mental illness who took his own life, in an attempt to make the police look bad. That, or the house fire and multiple stab wounds that he succumbed to, were actually inflicted by the police. I, however, do believe it was just a form of suicide, and we shouldn't talk anymore about the case. For our next entry, let's talk about a disease.
Enrix.
INREX is a subset of the disease group known as the INREX-Gomex disease. This entry caught my attention because my undergraduate was in biology, I'm currently working on a master's in infectious disease, and I want to get a PhD in microbiology. Yet with all of the study and focus on infectious diseases, I have never heard of this one. Well, it turns out, this disease was only ever described on a Thai website. Obviously, this disease isn't real, but they put a lot of effort into fabricating it. Also on this page was a massive PDF that was supposedly linked to a real mental health website from the Taiwanese government. I say supposedly because I do not speak Thai, and I wasn't able to read it for myself. Additionally, there are a number of cryptic elements on this website, such as if you repeatedly click the picture of the doctor, the page slowly starts to fall apart. This website was associated with ARG Sexy Girl Max 2019, so if you're interested, that's where the trailhead of this mystery begins. As for the disease, it isn't real. I can't read any of the symptoms or anything like that. Otherwise I would describe it more to you and explain why it isn't real, But maybe that's a video for another day. And that's it. That's the end of the iceberg. I hope you've enjoyed listening, and if you've watched all the other videos, thank you for watching all of it. I hope you saw something new and there's a new project for you to go investigate. As for me, this is my first video project ever. I've wanted to do this for a long time. I have spent years drafting scripts and throwing them out because I never thought I would do something like this. I never thought I'd be good enough or have the time to make one. So I decided just to jump into the deep end and start putting these together. I've learned a lot just over these, 4 videos I've made now. And going forward, I'm going to keep making things that interest me. It won't all just be about horror and unsolved mysteries. I'll do some science stuff, some things I find interesting. I'm a complete nerd, so there'll be plenty of wide topics. Thanks again for everyone who has watched and commented and given me advice. I've gone back and forth on how I do a couple things, and I'm still learning, so there are going to be new updates every time I make a new video. I kind of rushed to get through this one because I'm going home for a week to visit family, and I want to have this out so I don't have to worry about doing editing and everything while I'm home in Chicago. But I still hope it was up to quality and I hope you guys enjoy it. My next video will probably be a deeper dive on something like either The Quiet Place, because I hate that movie franchise and it's dumb, or about one of the video games I play and the science behind the way it works, or maybe even a video on how The Last of Us infection would possibly come around in the real world, because my focus is in mycology, and I love that stuff, and it's also a great franchise. Feel free to stick around. I hope you guys come back and check some videos, send me some other things you want me to talk about. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the last couple videos.